Well, hello everyone. Miss Christina here. Welcome to day 6. Look at that. I had both hands. I need both hands to talk about being part of day 6 of our SuperKids online series. You know it. Say it with me. Jesus' final days. Wow, I can't believe we've come just about to the end of the week. TGIF. Thank goodness it's Friday, and today is a very special Friday that we as believers refer to as a Good Friday. Now, before we start, just want to make a quick announcement. As you know, tonight, Pastor John and Miss Kivian are going to be doing a live stream Good Friday service from their home at 7:30 p.m. So make sure you check it out. Remind everyone at home, make sure you tune in. We are going to learn all about Good Friday. We're going to worship together, sing some songs. We're going to get into the Word. And of course, we're also going to be taking part in communion together. So even though we can't actually be together in a room, we're all going to do it in our own homes at the same time together as the body, as the church. So super excited about that. We're going to break some bread and drink some juice, and we're going to as we learned yesterday, remember all that Christ did for us on that Good Friday. And I'm sure you know that on Good Friday is the day that Jesus actually died. And sometimes a lot of us wonder, why is it called Good Friday if something so sad happened? But by the end of this lesson, we're going to figure that answer out. Before we begin, since it is Friday and we've been learning a lot this week, I think we need to kind of like shake it out a little bit, right? Maybe like shake out those hands. Oh, that feels really good. Shake those feet. Shake your head. Oh my gosh, that makes me feel so much looser, and I am just ready to learn. All right, so tonight we're actually going to have 3 eggs today, and they're very colorful eggs. We've got a pink one, purple one. Again, purple is my favorite color. And we've got this yellow one here. So as we go through the story of a Good Friday and all the different things that happened at that day, we'll be opening up the eggs as we go along. So yesterday, where we left off actually was that Jesus had his Last Supper with his disciples. Then he went to the Garden of Gethsemane. See the little flower that we made, and he was praying. And he told his Father, he told God, ultimately, not my will, Father, but your will. Let your will be done. And then at the end of that night, the chief priests and the Roman guards actually came to arrest him, and they took him with them. So this all happened like late Thursday night, and here we go into Friday, and we're gonna get into our word. Let's go to the book of Matthew, and again, I'm gonna kind of just give an overview of some of the things that happened. But if you go to Matthew chapter 27, you could read through it on your own with your family, have someone at home read it to you as well, and you can kind of get all the different details. But after he was arrested, he was taken in front of the chief priests and the elders, and they were questioning him, and they actually brought about a couple of false witnesses, people who lied about things that Jesus did and things that he said. And they brought forth these false accusations against Jesus, and of course everyone wanted him to stand trial, right? And everyone wanted him to be crucified. After that, they took him to Pilate. Pilate was the Roman governor. Again, the Romans kind of were ruling over the Jewish people at the time, and they brought him to Pilate. And again, they put forth these accusations against Jesus, and Pilate basically said, listen, this is one of your own. What do you want to do with him? And again, the chief priests and the elders all kind of persuaded everyone in the crowds to yell out, crucify him, crucify Jesus. So Pilate really didn't have any other choice. He said, okay, if that's what you want, we'll go ahead and crucify him. So Pilate actually gave Jesus over to the Roman guards. He handed him over to be crucified. And there were a few things the Roman guards did to kind of hurt Jesus physically. And we learn about that in the Word. One thing they did is they actually flogged him. So a lot of times with prisoners in those days, if you were handed a verdict to be crucified, you would get flogged. So that means that there would be this whip, and the one end of the whip, it's very rough, very sharp, very edgy, and when that is kind of hit against your skin, it's very painful. So they actually flogged Jesus with this, and they whipped him. In addition to that, the soldiers were mocking Jesus. They were spitting on him, and they also created what they refer to as a crown of thorns. Have you ever touched a rose bush maybe, or touched a flower that had thorns on it? It's very painful, right? It's very sharp, very prickly. And they created this little crown, and it had all these thorns on it, and they pressed it into Jesus' head. And that was very painful. Again, imagine when you're holding a flower that has thorns on it, and it just kind of pricks your skin, and you can start bleeding even, and it can be very painful. Imagine having an entire kind of crown, right, made up of all these thorns just pressed into your head. And that's why Jesus was bleeding from his head, because these thorns were so, getting deep into his skin, and it was very painful for him. So they made this little crown of thorns, and they put it on him, and they were mocking him because, again, they said, "Oh, here's King of the Jews." They were really making fun of him, and that's why they made him this sort of little crown. But of course, they didn't really believe he was King of the Jews. They were just making fun of him. And then, after all that, they actually took him out to be crucified. The place where they took him was called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. And when you're crucified, again, this was often something that happened back in that time. This is how the Romans kind of took care of criminals. Oftentimes, criminals were the ones that were crucified. So Jesus was put up on a cross as some criminal, and he even had 2 robbers on each side of him. And during the process of crucifixion, they actually take these nails, and they actually put them into your palms. So they took a nail and put one into each of Jesus' palms, like this, and then they also put the nail and they hammered it into his feet. And that was very painful. And then he had to hang on the cross for hours, and that's what happens. Once they nail you to the cross, then you hang there until you pass away, until your body just gives out. And we actually read, put the nails here. We actually read in Matthew 27, in verse 50, when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. So while he was on the cross, he passed away. In sign language, I don't know if you know, but the sign language for Jesus is actually this. So a lot of times you might see that maybe in different dances or different performances. And this represents the nails and the holes that were made in Jesus' hands and his wrists. So again, it was a really difficult time. And Jesus had to endure through a lot of pain, a lot of agony. He had to endure false accusations. He had to endure his own people wanting him to be crucified. He had to endure being betrayed by one of his disciples. He had to endure, all of his disciples kind of just leaving him. They all got so scared, they kind of just scattered and no one was around. And he had to endure the physical pain of being flogged, of thorns being pressed into his head, of being spit on, of being ultimately put up on a cross and crucified. And then so we come back to that question, how was it a Good Friday? Through Jesus' death, you and I, we were saved. And it seems so odd that Jesus had to endure all that so that we can be saved, so we could be free, so that we could have a right relationship with God. But it had to happen because we're sinners and God couldn't have a right relationship with us while we were sinners. So Jesus had to come in the middle and kind of cover us. And his blood covers our sins, and we're made whole, and we're able to be with God now. And as hard as it is to think about the pain that Jesus went through, we'll learn that in a couple of days he overcame all that pain. He overcame that death, and he overcame everything for us. So boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and I hope that you can realize just how important and wonderful of a day Good Friday is. And I hope that tonight, when we have our live stream service, we can all remember and reflect and appreciate and thank Jesus for all that he did for us by taking up that cross for you and for me. Thanks so much, boys and girls. Have a wonderful night. And I look forward to all of us breaking bread tonight during our live stream Good Friday service. Bye. God bless.